get your diagnosis. Obviously, your brother's waiting in the car because you got to ride with him. Do you go back and tell your brother? Do you tell your family? How do they respond? Do they ask how this happened? What goes down?
Okay, so when I got in the car with my brother, I had to tell him everything. I showed him the papers, and he immediately got angry. He wanted to fight. He wanted to fight whoever the person was, and I had to lie to him at the time and tell him that it was a girl and not a guy. You know what I'm saying? Just to kind of throw the pressure off because I'm like, as I'm sitting there letting my brother read everything, I'm like, oh my God, Josh, this is somehow your fault too because you let this happen. So I didn't want my brother to try to go above and beyond to find this person, you know what I'm saying, to try to go and hurt him, you know. So I is eventually when I got home, my parents were in the kitchen. I gave them the paper. They asked me like what's going on. My mom get her glasses. She looks at the paper. She reads my diagnosis, and I'm just standing there looking at her and my dad, and they're like, "Josh, everything is gonna be okay. Just stay calm. Everything is gonna be okay." That was the only thing they've ever said about my diagnosis, about my situation. They didn't ask no questions. They didn't do any of that. That's all they said. Until this day today, still never had a conversation with my parents about my diagnosis.
Now, I think it's important to note here, like we mentioned earlier, you did leave your parents' home at some point,
Mhm.
and part of the reason that you left is because you didn't feel like you had the kind of support that you needed. There was a certain way you identify with and the lifestyle that you were a part of that your parents didn't necessarily, or even family members didn't necessarily give you the type of support that you needed. So is this
Mhm.
part of the reason why you felt like you didn't want to tell them that it was a guy?
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, like me and my dad have had situations before where he told me that he accept me for who I am, but his actions would show me otherwise. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it just I just had to throw the situation out by saying it was a girl. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like I already kind of felt that my parents tolerated me more than accepted me. You know, so it's like to make it easier for myself, I just told them I had sex with a woman. You know what I'm saying? So
Do you think they ever knew, or do you think they ever questioned?
yeah, I think they do. I think they know.
Yeah. I mean, and
Oh, well, now of course they should know. You know, because I've been telling my story. So
you are very vocal on social media, so it will be hard for them not to know at this point. So, you contracted 5 STIs. 3 out of these are curable.
mhm,
However, if syphilis stays too long in your body, it becomes dormant. And
yeah.
because of the area you were in, you didn't have access to care as quickly as other people.
No.
So the syphilis did stay in your body a little bit longer. How long before you were able to get treatment for syphilis, herpes, and HIV?
Okay, so I remember in October of 2020, I think it was kind of like the middle, somewhere in between, like the middle of October 2020 when I found out my diagnosis and everything. So after she did the referral, I know I went the rest of October, the whole month of November, the whole month of December. And then I think it was around January, if I'm not mistaken, January, February 2021, when I received treatment for HIV, syphilis, and herpes because I had to go through the intake of doing paperwork to get approved for the care, the insurance that's going to pay for the treatment and everything. So, because of the fact that I had to wait a couple of months, the system laid as dormant in my bloodstream. So,
And
even yes.
and this is why today you do live with syphilis, herpes, and HIV. I think that is a very important educational moment for people to know. The earlier you do catch something like syphilis, you do have the possibility of curing it. However, if it does stay longer in your body, which was your situation, it may be something that you end up living with long term. Did you know that, by the way, at the time? Did they explain that to you?
Yeah, no, no, I don't think, no, I didn't. When I got referred to Augusta, that's when they started breaking everything down to me because the doctor didn't break that down to me about syphilis or whatsoever. So I wasn't educated on it then.
Which is so unfortunate because it's like give you the option to possibly go somewhere else, even if it's outside of Augusta, or to get a faster service so that, this doesn't happen. But not everyone in the medical field is oftentimes very informative to let you know your options. But yeah, okay. So, in the months that you were waiting on your infectious disease clinic to get back to you to start your treatment, did your symptoms worsen and did you have any complications within those months?
Yes, I had trouble brushing my teeth, eating something simple as cereal or a sandwich, drinking water because of the bumps and blotches on the inside of my mouth. It burned. Like, even if I brushed my teeth, it burned. Like, on my body, like with the sores and stuff and the bumps and stuff, it would burn like when I take a shower, like the soap would make it burn and stuff. So it was very hard for me. It was really, really hard for me on top of the discharge that I had at the time, it really made me very insecure. It was very hard.
Of course, you can't even do everyday things that people do. Like it's now becoming a luxury to even think about, oh, I'm able to brush my teeth. I'm able to wash my skin or put on lotion or those are things that are becoming difficult for you now. Do you remember once you finally started treatment for all three of these? Do you remember what the treatment was and what it was like?
Well, the treatment, basically for the syphilis, I had to go to a health clinic in Augusta, Georgia, for that treatment because they were the ones that carried the penicillin. So with that being said, I had to go through an intake process at the health department, everything, and they had to send my documentation over for me to get the penicillin shot for the syphilis. So that's how I was able to get my shot for syphilis through the health department in Augusta, Georgia. Now with the infectious disease clinic, my doctor was able to start the treatment for Biktarvy and Vasiclovir. Biktarvy I take once a day for HIV every day, and the Vasiclovir is for herpes. Both pills help keep the virus suppressed in my system. You know what I'm saying? Which makes it non-transferable if I was to decide to go out here and partake in sexual activities with someone. So I'm thankful for the medicine that I do have. And like I said, my doctor at the time was Dr. Asgar, and she started my treatment for the HIV and herpes, and then I had to go to the clinic, the health department basically, to get treated for syphilis.
And once you finally get on this treatment, do a lot of those symptoms start to subside a little?
As time progressed, yes, it did. Especially like with the dark spots and stuff. From I would say like from 2021 to like 2023, it took like a little over a year for my skin to kind of clear up the way that it is now. So just imagine me a couple of years ago now with like dark spots and bumps all over my face, like white bumps, reddish looking bumps, like all over my face. That's how I was looking years ago.
And so once you got on treatment, like you said, some of that starts to clear up. Do you go back to work? Are you able to do the normal functioning everyday things? What's life like?
Okay, so life since my diagnosis has kind of been very difficult for me because living with genital herpes is challenging. Herpes can have a different effect on everyone. And with me having genital herpes at that, I have outbreaks. Like the doctor told me, like she literally told me, you cannot stress, you cannot get upset, you cannot cry, you cannot get overwhelmed, you can't overwhelm your body, you can't overstress your body because that's going to cause for you to have a flare up, which could be a tingling, itching, or a burning sensation, which is going to let you know that if you keep that up, you're going to have an outbreak. And little did I know, yes. Ever since then, I don't have any issues with HIV at all, but with genital herpes, that's a completely different story. It's like you can't work as much as you used to. Like for instance, all my jobs I've ever worked has been fast food. So even though I had a job during my diagnosis, I could feel myself like being in pain around my genital area because of the sores and the lesions and the bumps, like when I'm having outbreaks. Especially with confiding in managers at the jobs I used to work at. Now, even though I know it wasn't my business to tell anyone my business even when I worked. I just felt like I wanted them to kind of understand, like when I'm having outbreaks, I feel like it's best for me not to come to work, especially if I'm handling food. Knowing that I was a clean person anyway and I was always sanitary, it just it's just like when you put yourself in over stressful environments, over stressful situations, overbearing situations, it really takes a toll on your body. And with me, it's like I have back pain even more. Now, before my diagnosis, I was already having back pain, but it seemed like with herpes, it kind of knocked it up or something, because I can't get upset like I used to. Now, one of the worst outbreaks I've ever had caused me to have chest pain, caused me to shake, and 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 it's I can't even really explain it because it's just that mind boggling. Like it really has you questioning yourself about yourself and your whole life. Just herpes itself. Like some days I have great days, and then other days I can't do as much as I used to, run around as much, work as much, because I try not to put my body or my mental in over stressful situations and environments.